Hey, everybody. Just want to welcome you to the latest edition of the Michigan Swimming Legends Project. I know normally when you see me, I'm going one-on-one with a past swimming legend from the state of Michigan or a current star in the sport, but tonight we tried something a little bit different. And I reached out to the 5 guys who swam at the men's NCAA championship meet this past weekend in Greensboro. Camden Murphy from Georgia, Michigan's Cam Thiel, Kentucky's Zane Rosely, Alabama's Maas, and Auburn's Nik Eberly. We had a great conversation. We spent about 50 minutes together and touched on a number of different topics, from COVID challenges that they all faced this year, managing mental health and maybe the most challenging swim season ever, testing procedures and how they varied from school to school and conference to conference, how they managed that. We talked about the highs and the lows, how they got their tickets to NCAAs and how they performed there when they got there. And we finished up with kind of what's next and what's on the docket for each of the 5 swimmers. And one of them shared some news and broke some news that you may not know yet. So hopefully you make it to the finish and you'll all know what we're talking about when we get there. So thanks to the guys who joined me tonight. It was incredible. Really enjoyed it. And to all of you, I hope you enjoyed it as well. Cameron, I'd like to start with you, if I can. As we look back at this entire year, there might not be a team in the country, and I know that every team in the country went through unique challenges. Michigan went through some challenges that were just simply unlike anything else that anybody else went through. When you look back at this year, beginning with the start and looking around and seeing really everyone else on this phone call start without the Big Ten, and college swimming had begun really without you guys throughout the fall. And when I look back and think about the fact that you swam 1 meet this year before Big Tens, that's probably crazy for these other guys to think about because they swam a full season. You went into Big Tens with 1 meet under your belt. I'm curious, when you look back at everything that occurred this year, how did it impact you personally?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I do.
How did it impact me personally? We were talking about this after NCAAs. We had a little team meeting and we were talking about, what we were grateful for this season and stuff. And obviously Michigan did go through, everybody went through a bunch of stuff that isn't ideal this year, but Michigan in particular. And I thought about it one way, and I think other guys on the team did too, that I'm super grateful for it because I think it inadvertently helped our team become closer. And, that's how I think we succeeded so well in terms of times and just getting the job done at Big Tens. A lot of times, we don't have a couple super standouts that'll always be confident that they're going to win their event, but with a super close team and, going through all the stuff that we did this year, I think it definitely helped us to, believe in each other and get the job done in a team manner at Big Tens.
This is obviously a sensitive subject, but as we're looking back at the year, it's inescapable to me that there are 2 Michigan Lakeshore swimmers on here and 2 teammates of Ian Miskelly. And obviously that was part of this year. As I bring in Derek here, Derek, welcome. I wanted to ask you guys, and this is really for anybody that would be interested in adding to this. I'm curious how mental health was handled on your team this year and how you handled it with your teammates. I can tell you that I heard more coaches talking about the mental health of their athletes this year than in probably the last 10 years combined. And so, Derek, if I could direct this question to you, maybe to start, I'm curious how mental health was paid attention to on your team this year, maybe by your coaches, but also on an athlete-to-athlete basis and kind of pulling your friends along this year.
Yeah, I think there was a much bigger emphasis on mental health this year, especially like we have these all sport meetings, and so every athlete has to go to them. And I think almost all of them were to do with mental health. And so a couple of weeks ago, we had Helinski's parents come on and speak, the Washington State quarterback. So that was really like, I think it was beneficial to hear their story and like help us so we know that, I mean, coming from where he came from, Tyler Helinski at Washington State, they had like no resources for mental health. But now I think all of our schools have like so many people we can reach out to. And it's come a long way, but there's also like a lot that can be done. And so like when Ian passed, I think it was lucky for me that I had like 5 teammates with MLA that were also at Alabama, so we could be like with each other for some of those times. But I mean, it was obviously really sad for all of us, and I think it kind of just shows us like you really need to reach out to somebody if they're struggling, and like it doesn't matter the time or what you have to do that day.
Does anybody else have anything to add on that topic in terms of anything that they saw on their campuses this year?
I mean, my team, the coaches and the staff, though, even like the weightlifting staff, were all like super, like they let us know that they were there for them, and just anything that we needed, we could go to them. But also my team was very like open about it, and we sat down multiple times during the season and just said, you know, like if you guys are struggling at all, just tell someone about it, tell anyone, because we actually had a similar situation with Ian happen on one team at Kentucky. I think it was the baseball team. And so we had a couple team meetings after that, and like we actually had a couple of guys open up and say that like I'm really struggling, and when I look in the mirror I can't like recognize myself, and that takes like a lot of guts to actually do and admit to like 16 guys that you're sitting around. And because there's like the thing where guys aren't supposed to be sad or cry or anything like that, and then it's really hard to open up and like that. So it took guts.
Absolutely. Zane, when I was growing up back in like the 1800s, Lars Jorgensen was one of the best distance swimmers in the country, and
yeah,
I'm sure that that had a part in your decision to go to Kentucky. But when I look at a coach with that kind of background and a swimmer with the events that you swim, it seems on the surface like a perfect fit. How did your freshman year kind of deliver on what you thought you were committing to?
Well, so I actually came into my freshman year thinking that like 400 IM, 200 IM were like going to be my events, and no, I never thought the mile was going to be one of my events. I like made goal times for 6 of my events, and the mile was not one of them. And they had to put me in the distance group right from the start, and they were like, this is just to get like an endurance base. We do this for a lot of the freshmen, and it's not going to be forever, they said. So I just like kept going into the distance group and like, okay, is this going to be the last time? Is this going to be the last time? And it never was. But I'm really, really happy with the way it went, because obviously it helped my mile, which I think I dropped like almost a minute in this year. I don't know, something crazy. And then my 400 IM, I know it helped me with that, even though the distance group is primarily freestyle, and 200 fly as well. So
it's great.
Yeah.
Nik, welcome. I know it's the first time we've had a chance to talk. I really appreciate you joining here. I was looking at Auburn's roster this morning and trying to get a better feel for your environment. I looked at that roster, 31 guys on that roster. I count 23 freshmen and sophomores, 8 juniors and seniors. So obviously you guys are incredibly young, and I'm curious to hear a little bit about culture there. But also one of the things that I was curious about, I see that in Coach Lowe, you have an incredible athlete, a 2-time Olympian and sprint coach on that staff as well. And I would imagine as a sprinter, that's been really helpful for you to have somebody like that to impart that knowledge. So I guess, you know, tell me about the culture at Auburn with such a young team, but also with a talented coaching staff that has a lot to teach. What I would imagine is such a young team, sponges.
No, it's an interesting atmosphere. Last year we were led by Santi and Julie, the two Olympians on our team, and now it's extremely young, and we're still trying to find our way. I think in the beginning of the year we struggled, but we're really starting to get our own voice. And every time I go into practice, Gideon, he's got such great advice and such great stories from the past when he was at Auburn. So, and he's like a hero for us. So it's just absolutely amazing to be coached by him.
Tell me about that young roster. What's that like having 23 of 31 guys be first or second year swimmers?
It's hectic at times, but looking at the future, we're pretty hopeful. And we're getting a lot more guys coming in as freshmen next year that are really good. So we're a young team, but we're hopeful that in the next few years we're going to be real good.
That's great. Camden, I think that probably for national swimming fans, there probably wasn't a lot of more interesting stories than a guy like Luca Orlando coming to swim at Georgia, where the SEC 100 butterfly champion already was. And you hear in my job, I hear, like Ohio State football players talk all the time about the culture that you're being almost recruited over, that the coach is always looking for the guy that's going to replace you. And in your case, you're one of the best butterflyers in the country, and one of the best butterflyers in the country got brought in 3 years behind you, and you got a chance to train with him. And so I was really interested to just kind of watch your results this year and what the dynamic of the two of you training together was. And one of the things that I found just really amazing was that you guys started the year so fast. I mean, you swam really, really well in November. And so from afar, without talking to you, I had a sense that things must have been going at least somewhat well, because you were performing really well. Can you tell me a little bit about that dynamic this year and getting to train with such an elite butterflyer like you?
Yeah, it was actually really fun. It was weird in the beginning here because the whole team wasn't training together because of COVID restrictions. So there was like 2 different groups, and we luckily were able to be in like the same group on some days, but like other days we weren't able to. So I think like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings we were able to swim together, but like every other day we like couldn't. So it was fun just to like in the mornings we do like a lot of like kick sets and stuff, and we both are really good at kicking, so it was fun to kind of race in the beginning of the year, especially like I was really out of shape and he was really in shape. This was back in like I think like August, September, so I was a little like I wasn't worried with how I was swimming, but it was definitely weird to see someone like come in that already trains like faster than I like have been progressing over the few years. But it was really fun racing every single meet. I honestly liked it more having someone who's also really good at fly, because I don't feel like I had that much pressure anymore, or like I didn't have as much pressure. So like when we raced against Florida and Kieran Smith was swimming the 2 fly, like I was not like stressed out about like racing him, but I was like more stressed out about like how many points we can get. But I knew like Luca was going to do really well whenever we raced like anybody who was really good. So it was just nice having him like always there, like by my side.
Camden, I don't want to like dramatize it or make it more than it is, but when you and I spoke the first time, which I think was in early August, I would describe you as kind of a lost athlete. You didn't really have a home at that point. When we were talking, the SEC schedule was not really firm. You did not know when you were going to be competing next. I remember that you were kind of at a point where I remember you saying we were supposed to start last week and then we didn't, and we might start this week, but we haven't heard anything. It was like that tenuous. And so I got this sense that like you didn't really know at all what was next, which I find amazing that 3.5 months later, you broke your own school record in the 100 butterfly from that point. So I guess a follow-up was that a lot about Luca's presence? Was that about something else inside of you? How did you go from kind of, I don't know what's next, to I'm swimming as fast as I've ever swum in the span of about 14 weeks?
Yeah, I think at that time in August, it depends what time we talked, but I did tell my coaches that I was like done. And I remember like I told like everybody on the team, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna swim this year because I didn't know if there was gonna be a season, and I didn't want to like start the season. Then they ended up canceling SECs and NCAAs, and that was just like a waste of time. And so I was like pretty much sure that I was gonna be done, but I ended up changing my mind, and then I got back in the water, and it was really hard for me to stay motivated for like at least like a good like month. And I honestly I wasn't expecting to go like that fast in the beginning of the season, because I think I went like an in-season best time at USC at our first dual meet, and I really wasn't expecting that because I was really stressed out because I thought I was like really out of shape, and I didn't really want to swim at all. So I think after that first meet, I was kind of like, okay, well maybe I should keep swimming since I'm obviously doing well. So yeah. Yeah, I had like a totally different mindset in
Yeah,
August.
really interesting stuff. Derek, the SEC setting for the championship meet, I mean, really the fastest conference meet in the country every single year, just an amazing setting. And then, you know, when I turn on the SEC meet, you know, it's a week before Big Tens, it's before, I think, Pac-12s. It was really the first, like, championship meet that I was able to watch. And so that was the first time that I'm seeing split relays, you know, with like 4 lanes, and there's nobody in the crowd except the swimmers, or for the most part. And I realized, like, wow, this is going to be a really different championship environment for these kids, and like, how are they going to pull through it? If I could ask you, Derek, tell me about how you and your teammates kind of managed being in a championship setting that I would imagine felt different than any championship setting that you've recently been in, and how you guys kind of managed to bring yourself up to the level you felt you needed to.
So we got to see the women's SEC go a week before, so we kind of knew what it was going to be like. And then we also got to have those meets beforehand that, like, going into the meet, I thought it would be really different than what I had been used to in terms of championship meets. But once we got there, was all I could think about was the racing, and I wasn't really concerned with like the changes that were made. It was just, we kind of just adapted, and it's not like it's only our team that had to do it. All the other teams are doing the same thing, so it was a level playing field. And I think we just like wanted to keep the energy up because there were no fans in there, and I think that ended up helping us in some ways. We tried to be like the loudest team there. Some of the time we did it, but not all the time.
Obviously, you know, Derek paints a picture of dealing with that pretty well. I'm curious, did any of you struggle this year with finding the right energy in those settings? Cameron, I know you only had 2 meets this year, so there weren't a ton of opportunities, but did any of you struggle with the environment at all this year?
At first, yeah, I personally do a lot better like when there's like a big crowd, just because it like makes me like a little more nervous and it gets like my adrenaline going. But after like 1 or 2 meets, it just felt like kind of normal, and it was just, you just got used to trying to swim fast when there's no spectators. And I mean, like we do a lot of race stuff in practice too on Saturday, so like it wasn't like too sad. I mean, like it was a little sad at first, like we couldn't see our parents or like anybody in the stands, but yeah, we just got used to it.
Sure. You talk about swimming fast. I got a couple of questions here for guys that had some really cool moments. And Nik, I want to come back to you here. You know, that 1938 for you in prelims of the 50 free, I'm sure was a really exciting swim for you, one, because it was a personal best, and it really was what put you in the NCAA meet, right? And I know that it's hard. You were so close to that cut line that you probably didn't know when you went 1938, oh, that's going to put me in, but it did. And obviously that was a really great swim for you. Tell me about what came together for you at SECs this year.
All season, I was really, really focused on my details in my 50. I did a lot of power work, a lot of lifting this year, and I feel a lot stronger. My endurance isn't back yet. So my 100s and my 200s are definitely struggling right now. But I was able to just focus and put everything together in my 50. I had changed my stroke up a bit. I changed my start. And I was able just to drop time.
I learned a little bit today about how you came to the sport, and I get a sense that you got a little later start in the sport than certainly some of these other guys where, Camden was, one of the top 16 kids in the country when he was 10 years old, and you didn't really start swimming full time until, sounds to me like maybe your 7th, 8th grade year started to kind of heat up for you when you moved to Club Wolverine. Do you feel like being behind, I don't know if that's the right description, but do you feel like you have a lot in front of you because you started late? What's your kind of view on the sport?
I mean, I feel like that. I feel like I got a lot to learn, and I'm always changing stuff at practice, always. And the other aspect of it is I'm not burned out by the sport. I can train 2-3 more years and I'd be fine. A lot of my teammates, they struggle with it because they've been doing it forever, and it's still fun as hell for me.
That's great. Cam Peel, I want to ask you about your 50 as well in a similar, story. You swam, when I looked at your Big Ten meet, Cameron, it felt like you really found yourself in day 3 to 4 of that meet. The way you put together, I think Friday night when you went 1930 leading off Michigan's 200 free relay, that was the swim that really put you in to NCAAs. But you come back the next morning and go 42.8 in the 100. I think made your first Big Ten A final, but I felt like, not that your 47 point in the 100 fly wasn't good the day before, but I felt like you got better as that meet went along, which for a guy who had swum one dual meet the entire season prior to Big Tens, probably not a surprise that you caught some momentum going through that meet. But in particular, I want to ask you about that 1930, because that was a cool breakthrough swim for you where you dropped a couple tenths and put yourself into NCAAs. Tell me about what not only went right in that swim, but what kind of went right for you at Big Ten.
Yeah, for sure. I felt like before that 2 free relay, my first couple 50s, prelims and finals, I fell over the blocks in finals, obviously, but they were pretty underwhelming for me. So I was like, I really wanted to get my 50. I thought I could do way better than what I did prior to that. And so like the first couple races of the meet, I always say like first race jitters, get them out of the way, stuff happens. And it seems like every meet it happens for me like that. But once I got kind of comfortable with it, and I think I always perform a little better on relays when I got my boys next to me, and especially leading off. And I was like, I need to get this cut. I want to make the AA team, and you're good if we lead off fast, that kind of thing. You got clean water, nobody next to you. So it's kind of just like taking advantage of the situation when you don't have people right next to you, when you don't have somebody going super fast or maybe not even close to you. It's like perfect, ideal situation. So I think the circumstances just kind of worked out pretty well. Still had a breakout underwater, but that's okay.
For sure. And I let your dad know, I did the research. His college best was 20.69. So you're way out in front of dad now. So he can't even talk to you anymore, right?
This is post-college for him.
You're right. Yeah. He's probably still going to make you make an A final at Olympic trials to
Oh
say,
boy. Yeah,
till then you can't talk to him, right?
Right. That's exactly right.
I mean, Zane, 358. Okay, I hope all these times are right. Was your best 400 IM coming into the year. You go 350 in November. You go 347 in prelims at SECs. You go 344 in finals to get yourself into NCAAs. There are 14 seconds in that race this year. I mean, the question I wrote down here, and it's a terrible question, I said, I have to think your eyeballs are pretty big with that event right now. I mean, like, how excited are you about what's next coming off the season where you dropped 14 seconds at 400 IM?
I mean, I was really excited. I was really shocked to say that. Because, I mean, I had the thought in mind that I wanted to go fast, obviously, but I never thought that I would go that fast. So instead of focusing on the time, I kind of focused on the things that my race that I needed to focus on the most, like my backstroke and breaststroke leg, because I know my fly is probably my strongest stroke, but I really needed to push the backstroke and then hold that speed for breaststroke. And then I knew that I could finish strong on the freestyle, but for the future, it makes me really excited because, I mean, I made NC2As from that event, and then I got to go to NC2As and see what it's actually like, and that all those guys there are fast. Like, and at SECs, even I would swim that race and like, get to the backstroke and start pushing the backstroke, and everyone would like start kind of like falling behind, and there was more distance between the guys there than there was at NC2As, where everyone was all close together in their times. And so, I mean, it makes me want to work harder for sure and keep getting better.
Zane, I hear you have a relaxed approach to the sport. That's what a little birdie told me, that you have a little different approach to the sport, a little more relaxed approach. Is that fair to say? And do you think that helped you? Maybe especially in pressure cooker situations like in SECs or NCAAs where you performed well, you know, that from what I hear, you'd say you approach the sport a little differently.
Yeah, it's actually funny you say that because at SCCs, like I was having so much fun with our team. At the final session when we swam the 400 IM, right before my race, I like screamed up into the stands at one of my teammates. I was like, "Hey, yo, Cooper," and he always just says this thing like, "Oh yeah," really excitedly. So I just did that. Like I went, "Oh yeah," and everyone did it right back to me. And that was right before my race, probably 2 minutes before I was on the block. And I was like screaming and I was just laughing. And then like I compared that to NC2As, and it was my first event, the 400 IM. And I was really nervous, if I'm going to be 100% honest. I was really, really nervous. And there was like a race ready room for everyone, every heat. And it was really like dark, quiet. And I was back there and everyone had their goggles on and their caps on and hoods on. And I was like, usually I'm just like dancing around or like, I don't really care, but it was really nerve wracking. So definitely a different approach, and I didn't do as well as I did at SECs, even in the prelims. So I think it really does help me to be relaxed and kind of carefree, not really worried about like not doing bad, but focusing on wanting to do good, if that makes sense.
I want to follow up on that to the group. Nik, you know, coming off your first NCAAs, Cameron, you're kind of starting to insert yourself into some bigger situations here. I'm curious about that ready room that Zane just talked about. Really, I would love to hear any of you talk about the ready room. What is it like being on a national setting, competing for big time goals when everyone has them? Being in that room for a few minutes, like, is it often loose? I hear sometimes people talking about telling jokes. Is it sometimes tense? I'm curious what those rooms tend to be like.
Cam, you want to go?
Me? We can.
Anybody. I'm curious to hear from anybody how they kind of approach the ready room.
Honestly, it feels just like an age group state meet, like back there to me, or like even just a regular, whatever meet has like a ready room. It's the same exact feel for me, where guys are like, some people are super serious sitting down, and some people are just like carefree, not worried about it. And so it hasn't felt much different for me, but that's just my take.
Personally, I think it comes with like, because I used to get really psyched out in ready rooms. But I think like having more experience, I don't really think about it anymore because back in 2016 at trials in the ready room for the Hunter Fly, I was like right next to Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte and Caleb Dressel and Colin Jones, and that like actually freaked me out.
Yeah, that'd be different.
It was really, really scary just being in like a huge room with so many like Olympians and guys who are so much older than me. But as I got older and I started going to like more national meets and like tier pro some meets and just racing those types of guys all the time, and then realizing that like I can also beat them and that they're just like I'm at that same level as them, it definitely got a lot easier. And so like at like NCAAs, I kind of like knew a lot of people in the ready room, so I wasn't like that nervous or anything. I was obviously like pretty focused on like what I was gonna do and like see like who was in the ready room, but like I don't know, I like to talk to other people in the ready room since I haven't seen them in like 1 or 2 years. For a lot of people like from like Cal or something that I haven't seen in a while.
So nobody here on this call is the aggressor in the ready room. There are no intimidators on this call that are looking to get the mental edge on their opponents.
No,
That's
no,
about
I'm always a very serious guy in the morning, but then at night, with all the more pressure, I just try to relax and have fun.
Yeah,
because you already made it. Don't blow it out of proportions, because then you're not going to nail your race.
right. Camden, I wanted to ask you about consistency, and for knowing that there are 4 underclassmen on this call, I actually think that this is a spot that all swimmers should listen to a guy like you talk, but I hope that the 4 guys that are on this call would all benefit from being able to hear you talk about it. You may not view it this way, but, I find you breaking your 100 butterfly school record at 3 different meets this year to be just incredibly impressive. In any year, it's impressive. But I come from an era where we used to tell swimmers you could only be good twice a year. And a lot of us swimmers from 30, 40 years ago used to believe that and used to try to be fast a couple times. And what I see in this new era of swimming is guys looking to be fast 5, 6 times a year. I mean, Cam Peel, I heard Coach Bottom talking about that about 10 years ago, this idea that we want to be fast at every dual meet. And it was new. Like, I hadn't heard coaches talk about being fast every single time they come out. And in that way, I feel like the mental part of swimming is shifting. But you're a poster child for that, Camden. When I look at you as a guy that, like, you were good many times this year and have shown that to be something that you can do. And I'm sure that that's something that also comes with experience, something that you grew into. But tell me about how you figured it out this year to be able to be good so many times.
Yeah, it was definitely mental. I don't know if I told you that I used to have really bad anxiety growing up, and so this year I wasn't okay. Like, it's not that I wasn't anxious. I was on medication, so I'm like not anxious anymore, and I think that like helps. But like obviously, I don't want to like encourage. Oh, people, you should go on medication so you're not nervous. But I used to have like really bad anxiety, and I like thought that I could never go fast unless I'm like completely shaved and tapered and rested. But I think it was more like my sophomore junior year that I started to like really be able to swim fast like all of the time in season. And I think last year it was just different because I sprained my ankle in October, so I never really got back to like where I was, and I was just trying to get back to like not like faster than I was before, but just kind of like the same speed. Just I don't know, just like that same speed that I was my sophomore year. I wasn't really focused on getting any faster. I just wanted to be like where I was before, like having the same underwaters. But this year I just think that like not overthinking at every single meet and just focusing on like myself and focusing on racing and not focusing on like specific times really helped. And we usually don't completely rest people for SECs, but this year we were doing, since we were doing so well, we obviously wanted to win SECs, but so they rested us a lot more than we usually do. And I think that was kind of like I think our coaches kind of had like an epiphany, like, oh, we can rest our team for SECs and NCAAs, because they usually just swim us really tired through SECs and then like hope that like if you're qualified for NCAAs and they don't rest you for SECs, but if you're not qualified, then obviously they're going to rest you so you can make the meet. But I usually don't swim SECs shaved or tapered, so that was my first time doing that. And I think just like carrying over that taper and just kind of like staying up in the weight room just helped a lot. I've gotten a lot stronger this year too. I didn't lift my freshman year, and then my sophomore year I started lifting, and that's when I started getting faster. And I started just focusing on just more like power in the weight room, and I think that like really helped me a lot, especially like on my front end speed.
I love that answer, because the first half of that answer, you had me completely convinced that it was this mental evolution that you'd gone through and you arrived. And then at the end, you convinced me, no, I did all these things to get stronger, and it's physical too. So
Well,
it's
it's
the formula, right? It's a little of everything.
I used to I used to get anxious about like everything. So like my freshman year or my sophomore year, when they told me that I'd start lifting, I like threw a fit and I was like, no, I'm not going to lift. Like I'm going to get too big. And I was like really pissed off that they were making me lift. But then after a while, I was like, okay, obviously it's working. So I need to like stop worrying about it and stop stressing out, and just listen to the trainers and kind of trust the process instead of like question everything and everybody, I guess.
Well, I'm not going to judge you. I get anxious about talking with 5 NCAA qualifiers on a Zoom call, so I can relate. Nik, I was looking at your best times. The last time you swam a 50-meter race rested was August of 19.
Yep.
That year you were 20.4. Now you're 19.3. Are you curious what that would look like to be able to put one of those together?
Yeah. No, I'm excited we get a long course season this year. We're able to train and able to compete. How fast I'm going to be, I don't really know or predict. My coaches and I are working on it and trying to get some meets put together. So we're pretty excited. And
you don't have an Olympic trials cut yet, right? Is that a priority for you? Would you like to be in Omaha?
No. I got dual citizenship with Sweden. So I'm actually going a different route than everyone else on my team. I'm trying to go for the Swedish team.
Tell us more about that.
It's still very early stages, you know. I don't have a great long course time yet, but I have gotten faster and I'm continuing to train and get better. So I'm talking with a few people over there, and I know the times I got to go. So hopefully I can get one.
Do you have a sense of when the qualification windows are for that and when you need to try and be fast?
A little bit. I'm thinking about the next 2 TOR Pro Swim Series meets are going to have to be the meets that I swim fast at. But I don't know. I'm learning as I go.
Sure. That's exciting. Good luck to you on that. I'm definitely excited to follow that. Zane, similar question. You do not have an Olympic trials cut yet either, right?
No, I don't.
Is that a priority for you this summer?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited to start long course season. I really like the longer pool and not having to do a flip turn. I feel like I can really get into a rhythm. But yeah, I would really, really like to get an Olympic trials cut, because lots of my teammates will be training for that meet. Of course, like with COVID, it's so hard to plan things ahead and know that those plans are going to be concrete, because in the times that we are right now, like you can have something planned for so long and then the day before it could get canceled. So I don't really know what my schedule this summer is going to look like exactly, but I know I'll be training with Kentucky down there in a long course pool. So I'm shooting for it. Yeah.
Your training starting with this vacation, right? That's where you got to get the mind right before the training.
Yeah.
Right. That's
yeah.
You're already into it.
Yeah.
Derek, I saw you have 3 cuts. One is including the 100 butterfly. I'm curious, what are your plans this summer? Will you focus more on the breaststrokes, or what do you have planned this summer?
Well, I haven't even like really thought about trials yet. I think my main focus right now is just gaining weight, because I lost like 25 pounds last year, or this past year. And I think that kind of hurt me a little bit. So right now I just want to focus on gaining weight and then when trials comes, I'll start to focus on that. But I think if I focus too far in the future, then I like lose sight of what I need to do right now.
Could you see a scenario where you would skip trials to focus on accomplishing that goal and focusing on your body, or you're pretty committed to wanting to be there?
I'll definitely be there.
Yeah.
But in terms of whether or not I'll like stop trying to gain weight and focus on trials, I think it'll depend on like where I'm at that point.
Was that largely through a change in the training and just everything that was COVID related, or something different?
Yeah, I mean, it was just hard for me to like eat as much. Like when I came from freshman year, I would be able to go in the dining hall and just like stuff myself every meal. And then this year I was just like, the main problem was probably just me being lazy and not wanting to cook up some food. But then I think it won't be a problem anymore, because I like know what I need to do now. And next year the dining hall should be open.
Sure.
So I think that'll be nice to get back in there.
Well, I just want to say that if you have any further issues with maintaining weight, just call me and I can tell you how to keep all the weight. I know where all of it is, and I've kept it for years. So.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's quite what you're looking for. It's just kind of all around my belly, and it is what it is. So, Cam Peel, day after Big Tens, 22.74 in the 50 meters, which that was a nice little drop, and it had to get you excited for the summer to see that it was everything you've been doing was transitioning into the longer pool too. And you had already been 22 last year, 22 before, right?
Yeah, I was 22.99 in 2019, I think.
Right. So you've shown that you're obviously very good in the long course pool. Tell me about your plans for this summer, and maybe not your goals, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, I definitely. So the idea was it was like day after Big Tens, I thought I'd try to get the Wave 2 cut. I think it's 22.71. And I was like, I'm already tapered. Everything should be all ready to go, and it'll be pretty easy to get. So I like did just a little warm up and tried to shoot my shot at it, and it was not quite as fast as I thought I was going to be, but I was still happy with the time, obviously. But I'm probably going to give that another shot before Wave 2, before both of them, so I can go to the Wave 2 meet, so I don't have to, because top 2, I think, from Wave 1 advance to Wave 2. And I just try to skip that if I can and go to Wave 2. But yeah, I guess the goal now is to perform as best I can at trials. But for the next week or so, I'll be taking a little break and probably just start lifting and easing back into swim. But I'm probably only swimming 50, so I probably won't be swimming that much.
Well, I had written down Camden, what's next? Olympic trials, ? Coming back. You tipped us off before the conversation, and I don't know how public this is or how many people are aware of this, but tell us about what your plans are next.
I actually don't really know what I'm doing next. I applied for some internships over the summer, so that's probably what's next for me over the summer. Then I don't know what I'm doing after that. I really do not know. I'm just kind of chilling. But
the feeling is you're done swimming?
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to trials, or I'm not swimming in a 5th year of college. A lot of people want me to, but I don't want to.
Sure. Well, there's this part of me that feels like I don't know if we should believe you because you already told us that you were sure that you were done. So we'll see in a year if everything stays the way it is. But I don't want to believe it because I don't want you to be done. But I also want you to be happy and be doing what you want to do. I'll follow along like a Stan and see what you do next. To kind of finish up here, I wanted to end it on it's not a light note, but you guys just came through something unbelievable in terms of the testing and everything that you've gone through. And I know that no one who isn't going through what you guys have to go through to be active athletes understands what that is. Can you guys give me, anybody who's watching this, a sense of what your day was like this year? And I'm curious, how often were you guys getting swabbed in the nose and tested and jumping through these hoops? I'm curious if anybody could tell me about what their normal existence was like for the last 6 months.
Yeah, we were tested 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And it was surveys before entering any athletic facilities. We tested sometimes if you could before morning practice, you do that, or just on the way after. But I guess it wasn't until we didn't do 6 weeks until like December or 6 days a week until like December or something. Before that, it was like 3 times a week, and then it went to 6, and it pretty much stayed at 6, alternating between PCR and rapid antigen testing. But you got in a groove, and I got pretty used to it, and that's pretty much it.
I did not get tested 6 days a week. That sounds like a lot. We got tested like once a week. Sometimes not even. We would do like 50% of our team gets selected randomly for a test, but that was only at the start. Then we started, when meets started, everyone would get tested, and then maybe like 2 or 3 days before a meet, you would have to get tested and make sure that you were negative. But as far as the COVID protocols, we had to fill out surveys, wear masks into practice, obviously, all that stuff. They wouldn't let you into practice unless you did your survey. But I think probably the biggest difference wasn't like all the protocols and the things that changed. It was like, really, if you were sick, it was more of it's not that you didn't want to go to practice because we were feeling sick, because I've practiced when I'm sick before and it's no big deal. But it's like, if I'm sick and going to practice and then getting the rest of my teammates sick, then they also have to be out for 2 weeks. So it's not just me going into practice and practicing through it for myself. It's also like, I have to look out for my teammates.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we only got tested, I think, once a week also. And in the beginning of the year, we had to fill out a survey before practice, but then we stopped doing that after a while. So yeah, it wasn't that intense.
Cam Peel, I want to follow up with you if I can, and this seems like a loaded question, but it was kind of something that I was thinking about with other athletes. I looked at the way the NBA bubble was handled, that, those players went to the bubble and they played the entire NBA playoffs this year, and they got through what they had to get through. And when that bubble opened, it was clear from what the players said, that bubble was never going to happen again. They were never going to get the players to go for that again. They did it once, but they wouldn't do it again. It sounds like your testing experience was much different. And I'm curious, not would you ever do it again, but I guess in all seriousness, how difficult is that for you to imagine ramping back up, getting to the end of a season and then knowing I got to keep doing this, is that a hard mental challenge, for you? Or as you said, you kind of found a rhythm and a groove with it. Does that weigh on you mentally?
I think it was definitely difficult because different colleges, do testing differently, obviously. Doing 6 days a week was obviously not a good thing if you wanted to keep training, especially during the fall when you're trying to make that base for the rest of the season. So in September, I tested positive and I got COVID, and there was a 4 or 5 week testing where I had to get a bunch of different tests done in order to get back into the water. So I couldn't get back in the water for 4 or 5 weeks. So that part definitely was tough, and that would happen. We only had like a few cases on our team all year, maybe 2 or 3. I don't even remember, but I just know I was one of them. But definitely was a hard part, especially when you get really close to the end of the season, and we were like, okay, we're so close. And we wanted to think that these meets were going to happen, but you never knew when you would just get pulled right from it. Like Michigan hockey just got pulled from the NCAA tournament. So I guess you just gotta like pretend it's going to happen. I mean, that's what we did all year. We pretended like it's going to happen, and we tried to like believe in it. And if it didn't, it didn't. But act as though it did, and take COVID seriously, and that's what we did in order to get, and it paid off. So,
right. Well, listen, guys, I want to tell you, I really want to thank you for doing this, and I hope that some coaches and swimmers will watch this. And like, I just want you guys to know, I think you guys already know this, but like, Michigan swimming fans are really proud of you guys, but you guys are the studs, right? You guys are the 5 fastest active male swimmers right now out there that are college age. And so there's a lot of young people that are watching you guys and taking inspiration from you guys. I'm sure those MLA guys are watching the 2 of you, and the Kingfish guys are watching the 2 of you, and, guys from Wolverine are watching a couple of you. And, there's a lot of inspiration that comes from you guys. And so I just want to congratulate you. I know that when you're a high-performing athlete, I was never anywhere near a high-performing athlete like you guys are, but I've learned in these conversations that you guys set your goals so high that sometimes I recognize that in these conversations I've learned that sometimes appreciating the accomplishments is the thing you guys are the worst at. And I just want to tell you that, like, if you could imagine swimming as a race and you could turn around and look at the thousands of kids that are behind you and how few kids are in front of you that you're competing with, like, you guys have all had amazing careers to be able to accomplish what you have, but in 4 of your cases, there's still chapters to write. And I'm really excited to see what Derek Maas's 3rd chapter is, and if Cam Peel's going to bust 19 before he's all done in Ann Arbor, and whether Nik makes the Swedish Olympic team. And I figure if Zane drops 14 more seconds in the 400 IM, he's going to break the American record next year, guys. So that's really exciting stuff for us to look forward to. So I don't know if that's possible, but my eyes are all wide open to watch you guys. I really enjoy it. I appreciate you guys making the time today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. This is super cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.